So after having mixed the ink, we'll have the entire assembly, the cliché, the cup, and the assembly. We'll bring that out to our machine, and we'll put that in place on the pins. The cliché itself is secured to the assembly with these two screws here to prevent any movement of the cliché and thus an imperfect print. What I'll do then is, putting it into manual mode, I'll move my whole assembly back. I'll take my pressure screw and I'll put that in place through the arm and into the cup to secure the cliché. At which point, I'm still in manual. I'll hit the mix button. This does two things. This helps mix the ink in the cup that we've just mixed and poured in, and it also is filling up the engraving on the cliché that will allow for a more complete print. Once this is done, we can stop this procedure. We'll close our guarding, and we'll see what the first print looks like. Here on my standard XYR table, I've got this already set for a height that's relative to the print pad that I'm using. So what I'll do is I'll put a plastic piece in place. This is a piece of Mylar, and I'm just going to do a one-shot cycle. And in this case, what I could see is that not only am I not making contact with the cliché, but I'm also not making any contact with the pad on the substrate as well. So what I'm going to do is come into my edit function on the main touchscreen, and I'm going to change around a couple of settings here. So the first thing I'm going to do is do the pad print delay. The cliché delay, and what I'm going to do is increase that from 0.5 to 15, and that's going to allow the pad to come down harder on the cliché to actually make contact with the cliché and pick up a full print. Now the one thing that I can do before I move on is I can do a sample. If I go into manual, what I can do is I can move my pad back, I can do a quick pickup, and I can use my Allen key to take the pad off to see whether or not I'm getting a full print or not. Sometimes the profile of the pad, the image can be moved in any one of these locations because sometimes the peak of the pad will prevent full coverage of the ink. So in this case, it's more or less centered. Depending on the substrate, we can move that forward or back depending on how the ink is being laid down on the substrate. So I'm satisfied with the way that looks. I'll put my pad back in and take a moment to just clean my pad off with some cleaning tape. Now I know that it didn't touch where my substrate is. So using the edit key again, I'm going to go in and on my pad down delay, print pad delay, I'm going to change that from 0.10, which is where it is right now, to 25. And we'll see what that looks like. So once again, I'll change from manual into a single cycle, and I'm going to hit the start button. So now what we have is a full-size image, and depending on how much pressure is being applied to your cliché or on your substrate, you can see that sometimes it's maybe not a complete pickup and a complete print. So what you can do is continue to make these changes to ensure that you get a good print. One of the things that we can also do is make adjustments to the cycle time and the print delay. So what we'll do when we do that is, running it in continuous mode, we can see where it is that we need to add some delays. So this is your cycle pause. This allows the operator to offload and load new parts. And then there's a print delay, which is right there. So one of the things that we can do on that is we can increase or decrease those cycle times to allow the operator to offload and unload successfully, and also to allow a greater time for the ink to flash off on the pad. And this will aid in having a complete ink transfer onto your substrate. So the way we'll do that is to go into the edit mode. We'll switch to manual, we'll go into edit, and what we'll do is we'll look at our cycle pause, which right now is set to a 35. So to make this even longer, to illustrate the point, I'll set this to 80. So that should be good and long. And the next thing that we'll do is we will set the print pause delay from 10 right now to 50. And that should be able to illustrate the delay sufficiently. So that's your cycle time. Offload, reload. and then this is your print pause. So those are the two things that we can also do to help your print successfully.